One of the questions that I recently saw on my YouTube video, and one of the questions that I often get from students and coaching clients is, how can we implement what we learn, especially under pressure? My name is Michael Williams, and in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how you can implement what you learn under pressure. So let's get started. You're in a speaking situation. You've been watching videos, you've been listening to audio, you've been going through training to help you transform your speech. And now you're under pressure. You're in a speaking situation in which you're under pressure, which for some people could mean now you're in a virtual meeting. It can be video and voice or just voice. You could be in a real live meeting. You could be in an interview. You could be giving an update. You could be in a conversation. You could be wanting to tell a story or a joke, answering the phone, right? And so it's a high pressure speaking situation for you, whatever it is. Could even be ordering food, right? And you know what you should do, right? Your mind is saying, here's what I need to do. But for some reason, as soon as you're under pressure, it's like a deer in the headlights. You're frozen. You can't do it. You just automatically revert back to the way that you always speak, the way that you always think, the way that you always feel. So how can you implement what you've been learning under pressure? And there's another question, why can't you implement what you've been learning under pressure? So let's just talk about that first question. Why is it difficult for you to implement what you've learned under pressure? Well, one reason is that what you've been learning hasn't become a pattern yet, right? It hasn't become a pattern, and it hasn't been tested under pressure. So one reason is that it's not a habit. It's not a habit. And it has not been tested under pressure. And it's actually two reasons. So if it's not a pattern, that is, if it's not automatic, then when you're in a speaking situation that's high pressure for you, your brain automatically begins to shut down parts of it that allows you to think more critically, that allows you to say, oh, okay, wait a minute, I need to do this, right? You begin to move into that fight or flight status. Your breathing can start to become kind of shallow. Your thinking can get kind of cloudy, right? And so your brain simply doesn't have the resources to relax itself down, to calm itself down, and to say, oh, wait, this is what I need to do. Your brain will automatically revert to whatever it has been doing historically, okay? Path of least resistance. Whatever it has been doing, it automatically goes back to that. So whatever the new skill is that you've been learning, perhaps it hasn't become a habit yet. Now, a second part to this is that maybe it's a habit in low pressure speaking situations, but it hasn't become a habit in high pressure speaking situations. That is, it hasn't been tested in high pressure speaking situations. So let's just say that interviewing, let's just use interviewing for many people is a higher pressure speaking situation, right? And let's say that generally you speak pretty well in other speaking situations, but in interviews, everything starts to break down. It just goes right out the window. How can you improve your interviewing skills? How can you improve your ability to smoothly, clearly, and confidently communicate in interviews? Well, first, you have to learn and practice the skills in no to low pressure speaking situations. Let me say that again. First, you have to learn and practice the skills in low to no or no to low pressure speaking situations. So that's perhaps by yourself, on video, with people that you know, right? This gives your brain a chance without pressure to learn the skills and techniques. And you have to practice this, right, consistently. It's all about consistent repetition over time. Okay? Now, you have to gradually increase the pressure, right? So then you may want to, if we're talking about interviews, you may want to just go interview for jobs that perhaps you don't even care about. So now you're putting yourself under pressure in a real live interview. So before that, you could do mock interviews, you can interview with your friends, with your family, interview on video, but ultimately and eventually, you're going to have to go out and do real live interviews. And I've talked to many people, this is a great strategy. So you go out and you interview for jobs that maybe you would take, maybe you're interested in, but it's not that one job that you really want. So you go out and you do that, you put yourself under pressure, and you do that as often as you can. What you're going to find is when you do that, you're going to be testing what you learn under pressure, okay? And you may find that it just breaks down that first time or second time or third time. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you become, the more you're able to do what we call self-talk, the more you're able to say, okay, this is what I need to do, and I need to do this at the beginning. And I won't get into all of the steps that you need to take in an interview. We have a course and separate sessions for that. But there are certain things you need to do pre-interview, certain things that you need to do at the beginning of the interview, and certain things that you need to do throughout the interview, and things you need to do after. So once you've learned what it is that you need to do, and when you're in that interview right at the beginning, even though you might feel anxious, you will be able to talk yourself down and do the things or implement the things that you've been learning. If you first made it a habit, you've practiced it in no to low pressure and then increasingly higher pressure speaking situations, right? And if you've tested it in high pressure speeches like actual interviews, you've gone out and you've interviewed and you've said, okay, man, so that first time I crashed and burned, I'm going to do this again. And in that next interview, it gets a little bit better. And the next interview, a little bit better, right? If you don't do that, and you just practice it by yourself, but you never test it under pressure, then when you're under pressure, there's a good chance it will go out the window and completely break down. Does that make sense? This can apply to meetings, to speaking up in meetings, to speaking with people in authority. You have to actually test it, practice it, right, under pressure. First you learn it and you practice it with no to low pressure, but then you have to increase the pressure, right, or else it doesn't work. Here's another key. You'll need to be proactive. What do we mean by this? By proactive, I mean you'll need to go out and not wait, but create speaking situations in which you can practice. If you simply wait and allow interviews to come along and allow your meetings to happen, then there's a good chance that you won't remember, okay, this is what I need to do. There's a good chance you won't have as many opportunities to practice because you're waiting, you're allowing. What you're going to need to do is actually be proactive and go out and create them. Make those phone calls. Volunteer to speak up in a meeting. Give your thoughts, make a comment, ask a question. Go apply for jobs, do the interview. Volunteer to make presentations. You're going to have to create more you're going to have to initiate, be proactive, create more speaking opportunities so that you can test yourself under pressure. Without the testing, you never pass. Right? If you don't test yourself, you can't pass. Right? So you have to test yourself. You have to be proactive. I hope that this has been helpful. So if you're out there thinking, as one of the commenters said, Michael, I've been watching your videos, great techniques, but when I'm under pressure, out the window, doesn't work. Right? Why doesn't it work? Well, what I find out when I'm working with my coaching clients is that before they start working with me, they haven't practiced those techniques and strategies and skills enough to turn them into habits. And even if they've practiced them and turned them into habits, they perhaps haven't practiced them under sufficient pressure. So once we put those two together, then they find, oh wow, I actually am able to perform better. So if you're interested in learning how to do that and you know that you need some consistency, some accountability, then you're going to want to work with me privately, which can accelerate your progress by at least 10 times. What do I mean by that? I mean, people that I work with, on average, have been watching videos, listening to audios for a couple of years. They work with me, and they progress in 2 or 3 months far faster, much further than they did working by themselves in a couple of years. So if you're a professional, you want to accelerate your progress, the fastest way to do it is to work with me one-on-one. If you're not ready for that, and you're not taking the self-study, then take the self-study and work on that, okay? Because at least that's going to get you a lot further. It's going to open up the world for you in a way that just out there watching this video, watching that video, trying this technique over here is simply not going to help. You need a systematic approach that works. The Pro-90 speech system, the Pro-90 smooth speech system, is one that's scientifically based, and it works. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's been helpful. My name is Michael Williams. Look forward to working with you soon.